Hi, I'm Kian, and today I'm going to teach you how to find the area under the curve and above the x-axis of a function. So let's go ahead and see the question. It says find the area under the curve and above the x-axis of y equals 3x squared on the interval from 0 to 1. So first, we can go ahead and graph 3x squared, just the positive part in the first quadrant from interval 0 to 1. And then as you see, I shaded the part under the curve because this is the part we want area of. So the formula that we are going to work on says that the area of under the curve of a function is equal to the limits of the sum of f of a plus k times b minus a over n times b minus a over n from k equals 1 to n as n approaches infinity. So in this case, we see b minus a over n appearing twice. B minus n over n is the width of the shaded area, or also known as delta x. B minus a over n is just calculated by 1 minus 0 over n. Why 1 minus 0? Because if you look at the interval, we see that the first part, which is 0, is just a, and then 1 is b. So b minus a over n is just 1 minus 0 over n. We're working with the interval of this graph. So we get 1 over n as the width of the shaded area. Now we're going to calculate the height. For calculating the height, we see that f is positive. So we just put a positive sign because we don't see a negative in the function. And then a, as I tell you, is 0, first left part of the interval, plus k times b minus a over n. B minus a over n is just 1 over n, as we calculated before, times k is k over n. And then there's a squared because this function is a parabola, and the degree is 2. So we should square 0 plus k over n. And then, because we have a coefficient of 3, we should also multiply this together with 3. And if we do it, we get 0 plus k over n is just k over n. K over n squared is k squared over n squared times 3 is 3k squared over n squared. This is just the height. So we can go ahead and multiply height and the width, and then we can take the sum and then find the limit to find the area. So the first part, we multiplied the height and width. If we do that, we get 3k squared because 3k squared times 1 is just 3k squared. And the denominator n squared times n is just n cubed. So we go ahead and take the sum of 3k squared over n cubed from k equals 1 to n. Because we're working on the coefficients that include k, we go ahead and put 3 over n cubed out of the sum. So we do 3 over n cubed times the sum of k squared from k equals 1 to n. So the sum of k squared from k equals 1 to n is a principal value, which equals n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 over 6. And I will also make a video to prove it and why this is true. So if we multiply 3n squared by this expression, we get n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 over 2n squared. And if we expand the expression in the numerator, we get 2n squared plus 3n plus 1, and then 2n squared in the denominator. So we can go ahead and take the limit of this expression as n approaches infinity. So we see that the highest degree is n squared. So we can go ahead and divide the numerator and denominator by n squared, because n squared over n squared is 1. So it doesn't make any changes to the value, to the overall value of the expression, but it simplifies this. So if we do it, 2n squared divided by n squared is just 2. 3n over n squared is just 3 over n, and 1 over n squared is 1 divided by n squared. And then in denominator, 2n squared divided by n squared is 2. So we see that we have 2 plus 3 over n plus 1 over n in the numerator. So if we take the limit of 3 over n, we see that it converges, it gets closer to 0. So we can plug in 0 for it. And also this is true for 1 over n squared. This also converges to 0. So we can take the limit, and if we see it's 0, we can plug in 0. And also you can go and watch my video about convergence and divergence sequences in my page. So let's see the question. We were solving it. So we get 2 plus 0 plus 0 over 2, which is just 1. So we get 1 as the area of the function on this interval. For checking it if it's true, the easiest way to solve it is to calculate the definite integral of 3x squared from 0 to 1. And if we do that, integral of 3x squared is just x cubed. And if we plug in 1, we get 1 cubed minus 0 cubed, which is just 1. So our value is correct. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful to you. And please subscribe to my channel and tell me what to do next.